I can't file a suit, I can't file any proceedings. So my fundamental right to litigate is lost. Consequences of this act are take over the property of Waqfs, take over the community's property, and then don't allow them a remedy also. And by the time the aggrieved party in a particular case goes to the tribunal, then 10 years will pass, and that's the end of the matter. So therefore, valuable property across the country where for charitable purposes, religious purposes, well, it's just taken away. So you can't put the community in a slot, enslave it, don't allow them any leeway, take away their property, don't compensate because it's private property, it's not public property, it's my property, don't allow them a procedure to vindicate my rights. You don't have to go to the tribunal, then I have to go to the tribunal. Page 27, whether created before or after the commencement, shall be registered at the office of the board.
Registration is not introduced for the first time in this act.
No. It's been there for a long time. I told your lordship right from 54. It's just the consequence is only quay the mutawalli. And earlier also surveys were done. Survey was introduced in 64, Malaz. Registration was in 54, survey was introduced in 64. And that's constantly been happening, Malaz, under every subsequent act, Malaz, we amended. Then, Malaz, the decision if a property is Waqf property. Then, Malaz, the board itself, section 40. So whatever is surveyed will be registered. For what is left out, the board itself can collect information. And that's section 40. This also removed. Survey removed. Registration requirement remains. 40 removed. If the board has reason to believe that property, if any, arises whether a particular property is Waqf property or not.
You're reading?
That's 40, section 40. And the board was given the power to decide that question on its own. Why? Because the board were consisted of Muslims and elected. And they could call for information and decide if it's left out anywhere. So that was the regime, Malaz. Now that's all done away with. Now the power is with the collector. So collector will, what surveys will the collector do, Malaz? Now, Malaz, connect this to section 36, 7A of the present act, of the 2025 act. So that survey provision goes, Malaz. And 36(1) says, every Waqf, whether created before or after the commencement, shall be registered at the office of the board. That's 36. So, Malaz, and then, Malaz, subsection 7 says the following. At page 34. So it shall be registered, and on receipt of an application for registration, the board should forward the application to the collector. So your lordship knows then, Malaz, that the survey and all is over.
You're reading section?
Section 36, 1 and 7 of the amended act.
The amended act?
Yes, Malaz. No, 36(1) talks about registration, no? Every Waqf, whether created before or after, shall be registered. And then 7 says, at page 34, Malaz, on receipt of an application for registration, the board shall forward the application to the collector, having jurisdiction to inquire into the genuineness and validity of the application and correctness of the particulars therein, and similar report to the board. So, Malaz, all the survey procedure is just given a go-by to. Then, Malaz, 7A. Yeah, it's all being recorded in any case. 7A says, where the collector in his report mentions that the property wholly or in part is in dispute. Now, let's connect this to 3R and 3C. Connect this to 3R and 3C. Can be any dispute raised by anybody. So where the collector in his report mentions that the property wholly or in part is in dispute or is a government property, the Waqf in relation to such property shall not be registered. So if somebody says this is disputed, even if I want to register it, I can't. This is what is called wholesale takeover, Malaz, of a community's right. Wholesale takeover. 8. Subsection 8, I'm sorry, Miss Justice Massey has had that. It says, in the case of Waqf created before the commencement of this act, every application for registration shall be made within 3 months from such commencement, and in case created after such commencement, within 3 months of the date of creation. And then 10, Malad, which is very, very problematic. No suit, appeal, or other legal proceeding for the enforcement of any right on behalf of any waqf which has not been registered in accordance with the provisions of this act shall be instituted or commenced or heard, tried or decided by any court after expiry of the period of 6 months. So you don't register me, then I can go nowhere. I can't file a suit, I can't file any proceedings. So my fundamental right to litigate is lost. My property is taken over and I can't litigate on that property. And this is through legislative fiat without a procedure. Nothing can be more violative of 14, Malad, manifestly arbitrary. So now connected to the 83 provision. Designated officer under 3C, higher than the collector. If he says it's in dispute, it's government property. Right, Malad? Then that dispute, Malad, takes away the character of the waqf as long as the dispute is pending and his report is pending. And after that, it goes to the revenue records. And then I have to go to the tribunal. But if it's not allowed to be registered, I can't even go to the tribunal. Because no suit, no proceeding shall lie. And connected to 3R then, because 3C deals with government property and government organizations, panchayats and all, 3R says any dispute. So the consequences of this act are take over the property of waqfs, take over the community's property, and then don't allow them a remedy also. And by the time the aggrieved party in a particular case goes to the tribunal, then 10 years will pass, and that's the end of the matter. So therefore, valuable property across the country where for charitable purposes, religious purposes, mothers is just taken away. The perpetuity of the waqf is lost. And the fundamental of waqf.
But then, whether this provision, even under the earlier acts, the registration was compulsory.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
This provision was not there, Malad.
But also, whatever properties are registered prior to the commencement of this